Good afternoon, guys. We're live.
What's up, everybody? Frank Forza here, Everyman BJJ, trio extraordinaire, Noah Green to my right, which might be your left, and my boy Jordan Worth, who I've trained with for maybe 8-9 years. I feel like I watched this guy grow up before my eyes. 10th Planet, brown belt, jiu-jitsu. Happy Sunday, guys. I was telling Noah off camera that I need to apologize, but I have a little mangiare, little food that I got to eat. I got like 3 hours in, guys. No sunscreen, was running sprints, doing the whole monkey thing, calisthenic thing, and yoga. And I just, we shoot this thing at 1:30 Pacific time every Sunday. So I was in a rush. I just threw a shirt on, kind of like what it's weird, Jordan, because I was like, for some weird reason, I've been feeling primal lately. And I'm like, maybe I should just do the podcast without a shirt. And Jordan didn't have a shirt on. And I was thinking, and then I was like, you can't do that. Like, this is just it's not professional. But what's weird, us being from the fight sports, I feel like us not wearing a shirt is just not a big deal because
I just got done training. I didn't have a shirt on when I got done training.
Yeah.
I guess I'll put a shirt on.
Like running around barefooted and shirtless, and like, it's like not a big deal for a fighter, It's not like showing up. It's just,
when you're on the heavyweight side, you're a little bit more self-conscious about going shirtless. I grew up in fear of going to PE and being on the skins team, just in fear of it. Like, I don't want to show my belly. I've gotten past that.
You're on the road to 185 now, so you're gonna get
yes. Oh no, I am. Yeah, no, I am.
Maybe we'll do an all shirtless when you hit 185 to celebrate.
Okay.
We'll do an all shirtless episode, and and
yeah. Yeah. Well, I spent I would say probably about 2.5 hours yesterday, just constructing a schedule for the interim, and I put it all into Google Calendar, and man, this is going to have me busy, but I can follow it. I have my plan, and then I'm going to print it out and have on the right side. I have my actual of how it's working out, so I can get that feedback in. But the next level of this is to work with Jordan on training plan, and then also I got to work out my food. I got to work out my food plan. But I was thinking that I wanted to bring up in this conversation of the everyman transformation. Now is the time. Now is the time to take control and to get busy. Get busy becoming a gold medalist.
Noah, if somebody is not digging deeper right now and hustling more and wanting it and finally starting to do the things that they put off for years, if they're not trying to do it now, I just don't like their chances to ever get it right. Like this year, the one thing this year has given us, it's given us a lot of adversity. It's flipped the world on its head. There's been some BS in a lot of it too, if you ask me. But in the end of the day, there's always going to be opportunity, and there's an urgency in this year. There's an urgency to go. It's like, go now, raise the bar, elevate. Like it's like step your game up, because things are going to get weird. Things are getting freaky. And everybody's going to need to step their game up, or they're going to get lost way behind. So you're exactly right.
Jordan, are you ready to do some training on Tuesday?
Yes, sir, I am.
Oh boy. We didn't talk anything about it yet. Yesterday I hopped on. I have a spinner. I have a legit spinning bike, and I hopped on it, and I wanted off of that within 20 minutes. I wanted off of it, not because of the cardio, but just because it's a lot of weight on that small seat. And so I wanted off that seat. But I said, it's on your calendar. It's on your calendar. You're going to do it. And so if I just keep to that, like if I just, that self-discipline of challenging myself, like, all right, look, you can stand up on the pedals, but you got to stay on the bike for an hour. So I did it for an hour. It was, I didn't really mess with my heart rate that much. I know in my head, like, how to train heart rate. I know in my head how to do that. And what I know is, like, this kind of training, take it easy, watch some UFC, chill, You know, just get on the bike, and the repetition there, or the training outcome there, is just follow your plan. So
now, as a segue, we said we were going to talk about acai today because since we all practice jiu-jitsu, and the Brazilians gave us the jiu-jitsu, or at least their rendition of jiu-jitsu, and they also gave us acai. Most of us had never, really eaten it, the real acai. Now, you saw this, Noah, and you said looks like an acai bowl. It does have some resemblance to it. It's not. Unfortunately, I don't have acai in here. This is a quick and dirty, like literally, this is like 3 minutes. This is some almond butter. These are some organic strawberries and some banana. I could have put a lot more on there, but we had to get on air. I didn't want to hold us up. But as far as acai goes, brother, I have to. We have a spot. We have a Brazilian restaurant here in Utah, and I literally have to pretend I don't see it when I walk by because I want that dang bowl. I could eat that bowl every day. It's a lot of calories though, brother. It's a lot of sugar. Even though that berry is super healthy for you, it's a lot of calories and it's a lot of sugar. Even if it's healthy fruit sugar, I think they put some kind of sugar in it too, man. It just makes you covet it and want it so bad. So no acai. You got to have some acai. You've had the real acai, Noah, because you've been to Brazil. You spent some time.
Yeah. Oh man. So just look up online. It's called BB's Suco, and it's a small chain there in Rio. But I had the one that's down the street from Hosier's, where Hosier, Gracie, and Barbara Gracie, and the family where they have their place at. It's what's it called? I think it's called Rua Iparanga, or one of those streets there. It's right there on the beach, and you can find these places. It's called BB's Suco. Suco just means juice, and you go in there and you look at the menu. The stuff just the different kinds of berries they have there, and it looks so what you see here. You go to Whole Foods and you get that little bar, that frozen tube of acai. Does not compare. It does not compare. It's like ice cream, but it's like a chocolate. It's got a texture to it that's like a berry texture, but it looks like a bowl of dog crap, but purple.
They're not. Are you saying Noah? They're not sending us their best stuff. They're not sending us their best acai.
I just know some BB Suco is the best. There's other places there that you can taste it's like a little sugary, but that one there they nail it. They nail it, and it's for like under $10 US. Now definitely. Excuse me. When I was down there, the exchange rate was 2 Brazilian reais to $1. Now it's up to like 5.5 reais to $1. So Brazil's on sale. Definitely it's on sale. But unfortunately, Dennis Ash closed Connection Rio that he had there, which is around the corner from Gordo's. And I would go around even just down the street from there. Every day you can go get what's called a prato feito, a full plate at Chia's. At Chia's, you just go there, you give them 5 reais, and you get it's like a buffet, and
so
it's very good food.
For $1 US, you eat like a king.
She probably raised her prices, just because there's been a change in the exchange rate. But man, solid value. Just go in and eat. It's weird. It's a weird thing to do.
I would say if you asked me to rate the foods, I would put Brazilian in probably my top 3, man. Like in terms of, a certain cuisine, Italian, Thai, Indian, Brazilian it's so dynamic, what they do. But let's stay with Brazil because you were there, and we're seeing right now in our country, Noah, it looks like that there's been, it feels like, at least just when you go on social media, it feels like we might be headed to the wild, wild west, like kind of like every man, just to plug our show, every man and every woman for themselves. It seems like, hey, you're kind of on your own. The police aren't going to be able to help you out as much. And so it seems like we're in an upheaval of violence. It seems that way. We're not going to cite numbers. I'm just saying to a lot of people, it seems that way. But you've been to Brazil. You hear people talk about, the people robbing you in Brazil. What is your sense of Brazil and how safe you felt there and how you were able to fit in? And is America now, with the perception we have now, is America now anywhere near as violent, or is it like, no, Frank, Brazil would be, where you were 3 or 4 times more violent. We'd have a long way to go to catch up to what that was. And how did you navigate that?
Okay. Well, first off, I spent a lot of time by myself when I was there. So I would get on the buses and go around, and I had zero negative encounters for my 6-month stay. Zero, absolutely no. I was when I was American, and spoke the language, but I also practiced situational awareness. And I took chances probably that some people would not take. Now the level of violence supposedly is much higher now since I've left. Right. It's much higher. But I would like to go, like when I go to Copacabana to train at Leo Vieira's academy. We go as a group from the albergue, which is like hostel. That's the word for hostel. Not hostile, but hostel. HOSTEL. Right. It's called albergue. And so I would go with a group to train there, and just to meander a little bit, I would go take bus trips. I was going to Petropolis, which is an hour and a half bus ride away. Just go around. I would be on the buses late at night. No problem. I had no problem. Now, like I carry my backpack, and in my backpack you can tie up your pack, but I would also wear my pack in my front. I also wear my pack in my front, and where I would sit, I would sit with my back where I could see everything. But I didn't act nervous, like wasn't like all that. I just acted normal. I don't, I talk to people. One way of disarming those around you is just to talk to them. Get them to start.
So not only did you not experience any violence or threats or anything like that during your 6 months, but you also didn't see the violence that you read about and that we hear about or you see on TV. You also didn't witness it or see it.
The only violence I saw was the Brits came over and they got dengue fever. So they actually were in the hospital. And in the group that I was around, because I was around Australians, some New Zealanders, and one of them said that he got robbed. But these guys, and I had a group of Italians there too, but these guys, they were going into the favelas. I just didn't go to the favelas.
Why would a tourist go to the favelas? Were they trying to buy something? Hint, hint. Why would they go?
Well, the favelas would come to them for delivery service. But no, they were going up there to go dancing, to go check it out. There are favela tours, but that you could take, and those are pretty safe. But these guys are just going to go chasing women. They were going up there to chase women.
That is the craziest thing ever. You can go to a country and they'll let you do a paid tour of the poorest neighborhoods. That is insane. But so with the what I always found weird is that, and I've never been to Brazil, that the favelas are in the mountains, right? In America, it's the opposite. In the mountains, the rich people get their home in the mountains, and in Brazil, I guess all of the prime real estate is down toward the ocean, or at least Rio, and then the poor people, the less fortunate, live up in the mountains. That's kind of, I don't know. Do you find that, you guys find that kind of weird a little bit, or it's
well, well, those are harder to provide services to, with water, electricity, sewer up on a hillside. So unless you were independently wealthy, they figured out a way to make it happen. The tradescraft, just the people with the grit. That's I think that's how the favelas came about. But yeah, no, down near the waterfront, and it's all of it is. I've learned more about Brazil since I've come back than before I went. So I have a much more stronger appreciation of the country and of the language and the geography. Like, I didn't know that the acai berries come. I was like totally confused. Like, where does this acai berry come from? And I see these large, like 5-ton trucks coming in they're just full of pineapple, and you're seeing them coming into the city. You see, when I was taking the bus out away, like up towards Minas Gerais, I would see these trucks, just the back of the truck, full of produce coming into the city. It was amazing to see. But I was like, well, what does an acai berry look like? Well, acai berries they're harvested off of the Amazon. So they're trucked down away quite a bit, actually, to Rio. I had thought they were being harvested locally, but they weren't. They're actually brought down from the Amazon, which is far away from Rio.
Were you romantically involved? You married a Brazilian woman, very attractive Brazilian woman, very smart. Were you a single man at the time you were in Brazil for this 6-month stay?
No.
Oh, you weren't.
I wasn't single for long. I wasn't single for long.
My buddies that have been to Brazil, Robert Drysdale, who gave my black belt, and then I've got other buddies that have been over there, and they're like, one of the key things they talk about I've met the Brazilian women over here, but they're like, in Brazil, the women are very approachable, unlike in America, where, a woman can look at you sideways, or women can be very much like, well, what do you want? And, too many guys hit on me. And I've heard that in Brazil, it's the opposite. Like, even a woman that isn't romantically interested in you will just be nice and talk to you. And did you get a sense of that over there? Not as a guy who was taken, but did you, through your friends and others, are the women tend to be much more approachable, I guess?
I went, so they're curious because they're like, who's this foreigner? And the Brazilians adore American culture. So there's a little bit, you'll feel a little bit like a celebrity in a way there when you're outside the country. But there's also, you feel this attention on you. That's a weird thing for, because here in America, we have so much diversity here that we're pretty, it's no big deal. It's no big deal to see, oh, you're an Italian. Oh, I love your accent, the Australian accent, or is that, oh, that's a New Zealand accent. That's not, you just get so much impressions here in the United States. But when you go there, you stick out. You stick out because of your mannerisms are not Brazilian. Obviously your language skills. Brazilian Portuguese is. I've accepted that I'm never going to be like better than as good as I've already accepted that I'm never going to be that good.
Mm-hmm.
But one day will come, where I'm, at least I'm pretty decent at it. With practice. But your language skills will stand out.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, that's a lot. Hey, Jordan, we lost you there for a second. Jordan, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah. You've been quiet so far. We've been on there like 15 minutes. Yeah, I haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, I can hear everything. That echo effect.
Oh, you're getting echo? Okay.
Oh, wait. Yeah. I have a bad echo.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Well,
I was wondering why he hadn't said anything, but
I want to
that
stay with
explains it.
Brazil because I am fascinated by, and I know that there's different parts of Brazil. We can't speak for all of Brazil, right? I'm generalizing, and of course, I'm sure there's many different personalities and different characters of Brazil and the countryside and the beach, other places like Florianopolis. And but talking about like Rio, it seems like it's a very like it seems like it's a very like palpable, raw, natural place where, like, in other words, kind of like, it's not like, America, sometimes I feel like we're trying to put on appearances more, like where people are trying to be something because they think that it makes sense for their job or their profession, or whereas I get the sense like a Rio, the Brazilians I've met, that it's just raw. You're just who you are. You're just your natural self. And some people will like you and some people won't. And you just, and even like with street situations, I got the sense that like, my American sense, having never been there, but having a lot of friends who have, it's like, I feel almost like if something breaks out, like you've got to fight. There's not like, I'll call the police, I'll sue you. America, it's very much if you do this to me, I will sue you immediately. I will sue you to smithereens. I will call the cops right now over a routine argument. Whereas I get the sense, at least, Noah, and you can speak to this, that in Brazil, it's like, no, if something goes down, you just got to kind of handle it. It's like, it's like old school, like primal raw, like, nah, handle that. The police might not or probably won't be called. You just got to handle that. Give me a sense of that. What's it like with stuff, the differences in the way things are handled there versus, say, the United States?
Oh, I don't know if I can speak to that really, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I didn't have to deal with that. However, you do realize that when you travel abroad, you do realize that there's nothing like being an American. There's nothing like you. We have rule of law here in the United States, and since we practice English common law and the concept of torts, which is the defining character of English law, common law, is the system of torts. Whereas Brazil has they come out of the Napoleonic Code, if I'm and so there's a little bit more of a, the Napoleonic Code is more of a you're guilty until proven innocent. So you have to prove your innocence of things. Whereas here in English common law, you're more of well, you have to prove it. You have to prove. But the system of torts is also very important. The concept of torts, which is if you kill my cat, I'm going to make you pay for that. All right. And there it's extrajudicial, or it's outside of the judicial process.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the mentality, because it's just a different system there, and they're coming from that, how that society, how that culture is designed, how it kind of originated from that Napoleonic Code, and just their influences. I would presume that there's more of you have to watch out for yourself. Yeah. Whereas here,
I've heard stories like where if someone, like a guy is accused of raping a woman, and it's like the neighbors just beat the piss out of him. It's not like, let's call the cops, whatever. It's like the brother, the sister, the whoever. There's a lot of that sort of. Again, I'm speaking more to like to Rio, but my friends have stories like that where it's like, hey, things get handled like that. That's not an abnormal thing. It's like in America, they call the police and the police arrest them. And then a lot of times, the bad guy might get a pretty short slap on the wrist or a short sentence. And in Brazil, it's like, well, we'll just skip the middleman. We'll skip the police. Let's handle it. He did this bad thing. And again, I haven't been there to see it myself. I actually, when I worked for UFC, we did a show in Brazil. I was really pushing and lobbying and hoping to go. it was in Rio, and I actually helped us a lot. We had an issue where we were thinking, how are we going to get security for some of our venues? That was a big thing for like the pre-fight build-up and press conferences, and the week of the fight. And there's a lot of things, and there's activities on the beach to promote UFC, and so there was an issue of, well, how do you secure it, and then the cost of securing it. And so that was probably one of the best things. Some of the best work I ever did with UFC was trying to create ways to say, we won't pay for the security. They will. They have the Olympics coming up. They can't afford to have an incident, a black eye. And so it wound up being that we at the UFC were able to get them to, the city there to put a lot of security resources into our activities, like leading up. That was actually one of the, I think, some of my best work at UFC. But when everybody went there in UFC, it was the only place that I know of that UFC went at the time where they said to the staff, like, if you leave the hotel after dark, it's on you. Like, we have no responsibility for you, whatever. We're advising you not to, but if you do so at your own risk. They've never done that before.
I didn't go out at night in Rio. In Rio, they have a problem on the beach. So let me explain like this. So there's a beach culture there where, let's say, every Sunday, whereas we have in the U.S., we have our backyard. We have our backyard, and we pull out the little grill and we do grilling. I don't call it barbecuing because I'm a Texan and I know what barbecuing really means. I might add that. But in Rio, a lot of families go to the same section of the beach.
Not sure what happened. His phone might have died. Had an issue.
Yeah, his phone died.
No, he
let me just. Oh, there he is. Okay. Let me just pop him back in here. All right. Can you hear me? Okay.
I hear you, brother.
All right. In Rio, you have your Sunday get-togethers, and maybe they'll have soccer, football. So families will go to the same section of the beach, for generations. That's a family thing they do. They all go there. You'll have your grandparents. You'll have the children. You'll have, the family. Let's meet up on the beach. At where we usually meet up at. Well, there you'll have lawlessness and like looters, where you'll have gangs, and this could be like adolescents, like teenage groups of 30 to 40 teenagers. 30 to 40 teenagers will get together, and they will just run through the beach, looting, stealing from people.
What?
Yeah, let me explain that again. Frank.
Hey, buddy.
Let me
Sorry,
finish.
yeah.
Let me finish. Quit touching your device. I don't know what's going on there. Let me get the story out because I have to repeat it. You'll have adolescents there on the beach, 30 to 40 of them, and this is called a arrastão, where they'll run through the beach, stealing from people. Like gangs,
like a flash mob kind of thing.
Flash mob, yeah, 30 to 40 adolescents running through there, and just like you can't have enough protection there. You're gonna have to take some people down. Self-defense. And they have weapons. For years until Jair Bolsonaro came around, they had made it very difficult for the average law-abiding citizen to have self-defense. For to have firearms. Now he's changed that around. He's loosening up those laws.
Are you referring to guns? You're referring to knives? What are you referring to?
Firearms. Okay.
Yeah,
handguns.
So you're saying they were very. But let's stay with this for a second. And now we need Jordan. We've kept Jordan out of here because I've been so fascinated about the Brazil part. But this is for all of us now, because this has relevance to what's going on in our country. By the way, you guys have seen we've got more. It seems like we have more head stomping going on now in the streets. It just seems that way, unfortunately. And I guess the question that's related to this is this. If we are headed to more of a Wild West in America, if we're headed there, right? If our perception is right, and it seems like There's more angry people. There's more people that, you know, you're more likely to get jumped now and whatever, wrong place, wrong time, wrong neighborhood. If that's the case, right? The police are not going to be as responsive. If that's the case, if it's the case, what is the net effect on the martial arts community? Because we already know this, guys. This is fact. It's a fact that 2020 set the record by far for gun sales and for ammo right now. It's hard to get some ammo on certain guns like 9mm. So we know that people are stockpiling weapons left and right here. The real question, though, is will they also gravitate in even bigger numbers to wrestling, to jiu-jitsu, to judo, to knife training, to kali? Will the net effect be, because you can't just shoot your way out of everything. I mean, there's still going to be, even if it becomes more the Wild West, right? And even if the police aren't as responsive and the police don't handle as many things, even if that's the case, you as a citizen still have to operate on a continuum. You can't just have somebody shove you and shoot them, right? There's still going to be a continuum. So the person that is able, that has hand-to-hand skills is going to have more options if they have to deal with something than somebody who just has a gun and is a coward and just shoots because there's an argument with their neighbor and they're scared, right? There's still going to be an onus of responsibility. And I imagine a continuum there for anybody who's trained to say, hey, I have to handle situations myself now, but I have to be intelligent about it. I have to operate on a continuum. So I posed the question, let's bring Jordan in now, and then we'll bring it back to you, Noah. I posed the question to both of you. What is the net effect of 2020 and what seems like more of a wild, wild west? What is the net effect of that? Is that going to drive a lot more people to say, I want to learn jiu-jitsu, I want to learn judo, I want to learn Muay Thai, I want to learn MMA, I want to learn the box, I want to learn firearms, I want to learn. Is that going to be the net effect? Jordan, your thoughts?
You know, man, I've wondered the same thing myself. I honestly I'm not sure exactly how to answer that question. If it was just simply that there was a lot of riots going on and a lot of like people upset and all this emotions, then I would say the net effect would be to drive people to jiu-jitsu and to learn how to fight. And if I had to put my if I had to put a guess on it, I think that will be what the end result will be. Is I think jiu-jitsu will definitely go up. Martial arts training will definitely go up because of all this. But it's also a weird time, man, with all this coronavirus, with all this COVID-19. I almost called it H1N1. Some disease we shouldn't be worried about. But with all this worry, with all this pandemic stuff going on, it's like people are scared to train. At least some people are. But I think a lot of people are starting to realize that it's not really that big of a deal, and a lot of people are.
What sorts of numbers, Jordan? You teach every day, every afternoon there in Vegas. What sorts of numbers are you seeing now? Number of students versus what you would have seen the same time last year. What's the drop off been? What percentage would you put on? How many would you have seen last year this time in each class versus how many now in a peak class, in a heavy class? What's the difference?
We haven't really seen a change, really. It's really been about the same. It's really been about the same last year as it is this year. I haven't really noticed too much of a change. We still have been having good numbers and stuff. So, yeah.
Is it a little harder to get new business then in this climate? Is it the usual suspects, the same diehards you're seeing, or is it harder to get new people walking in off the street now with this?
I wouldn't be able to answer that because I don't handle the signups and stuff like that. I just coach there. I don't handle any of the signups, but I've seen a couple of the walk-ins and stuff, and these guys are definitely not diehards.
Yeah.
They're average Joes, normal guys coming in off the street. So
are your average Joes your everyman? Are they looking to compete, or are they just looking? Have you been able to elicit their training goals?
It's different for every person, man. But a lot of them are just like, oh yeah, like a lot of them are interested because they've watched MMA and stuff. We have a lot of guys that are fan of the Joe Rogan Experience, and they come in and they're like, oh yeah, Rogan told me about 10th Planet, so I came in.
Gotcha.
Yeah, not too many I've said about competition.
Now, Noah,
Yeah.
you are a former Marine. I feel bad calling anybody a former Marine because it's, it's like, it's
Well, you
almost
don't
like
say
once a
former.
year.
You just say you're a Marine, as I'm still a
Yeah.
Marine.
Okay. And I apologize for that.
That's fine.
I apologize to all Marines out there.
Never just say X. Never say X.
Yeah.
That's the worst. That's the worst.
As
Yeah.
a
Yes.
Marine, you're a guy who's trained with weaponry. What do you imagine the net effect of this? We have more, it seems to me we have more scared people than at any time I can remember. I don't remember at one time in my lifetime where I've seen more scared people. It's almost like if you gauge the temperature of the country, there's a lot of fear out there. And what is the net effect of this? And again, none of us knows for certain, but in your best perception, your best imagining, Noah, what does that mean to the net effect of people going to martial arts schools or wanting to go? Because we know COVID might not allow them to do it, but do you think the net effect is, man, we're going to see an even bigger number of people driven to these gyms, to the combat sports? Or do you think, no, yes, they're afraid, but they're just going to huddle with their guns and stay in the house and COVID's going to scare them away? We will not see a boom.
Fear and anxiety are weird, aren't they? Anecdotally, you might hear stories of people wanting more, more firearms, or, but they have that desire has to be met with action as well, doing it and just wanting to be more safe and to insulate yourself and that anxiety, just that desire. There's a long stretch between that and getting up and adding it to your schedule and training for it day by day, every day.
Yep.
That's and it the weed out effect is vast. The net effect will be, maybe a couple people show up, because of it, a couple. But I wanted to address something.
People might come for a week and then be like, all right, man, screw this, man. Let's get
This is too hard.
Let's get more bullets. You know what I have been seeing anecdotally, and I would love to see stats on this, the sale of like pepper spray and mace, whatever, like I bet you that's through the roof. And now they've got, Jordan, I know you've seen this on Facebook. They've got ads for like these like billy club things that almost should be illegal. Like, have you seen it? Like, people are just, as soon as everything heats up, they got these things. It's like have you seen that one stick? What's it called? It's this stick that like you hit someone one time and then they do the demo and then the guy pulls it. I'm like, this should almost be illegal. Like, but so people do have other options. And like I say, a lot of people in this country, unfortunately, we have a country that's very prescription drug reliant, and a country that generally doesn't eat healthy. We have what I call a magic pill mentality. We want a vaccine or a magic pill to bail us out of everything, out of all of our bad decisions. And if that stays the case, then to what you're saying, Noah, it could be, hey, you know what? There's easier ways for me to defend myself than to go and have people sweat on me and be in pain and be uncomfortable and get tapped and get my ego bruised and take 3 hours a day and come home and have my wife say, why are you still doing that? That's kind of a waste of time. We should be doing this. And so guys, this will be interesting though. Because this is the thing. Now, I could just be a weirdo, and I'm sure that Jordan probably falls in this category too, but I'm like, I need to become like, I need to be like a prepper now. I need to train. I need to be ready. Right. I'm taking all kinds of I'm just aware, like what you're saying, Noah. I've always been aware of my surroundings coming from Baltimore. Like in Baltimore, if somebody drove around the block twice, people knew. People were like, that car just drove around twice. Right. And people would sit certain places in the restaurants. They could see everybody come in. And I hate to admit it because I'm an optimist and I'm hopeful. And I wake up every day and I try to be hunky dory and I try to be peaceful, but at the same time, I'm not stupid. And I've seen violence up close. I've lived in tough neighborhoods, and I'm like, you know what, bro, you better get ready. Like, you better start training like multiple attacker scenarios, the police aren't coming scenario, right? Like, this is not a joke. Like, this is a real thing. Jordan, what do you think about that? Are you training other things now as well? I told you guys knife training. Knife training is something that I'm getting into now. I'm even looking at gardening a little bit. So, Jordan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. even before all of this stuff, I've always been really, really into like apocalypse style situations and really, really into like different, just different. Ever since I was like a kid, dude, I've always been preparing for like zombie apocalypse or like a pandemic. I've always been like thinking about like apocalypse style situations. So like I've always like the first thing I trained before I started doing MMA and like jiu-jitsu and stuff. A lot of people don't know actually, but when I was like 13 and 14, as soon as I turned 15, because right before I started training at 15, I used to do parkour. And a lot of people
Wow.
don't realize it,
Wow.
but parkour is a martial art. And you may
Ah,
not realize that, but parkour is a martial art because what is a martial art? Martial art is the art. Martial art is protecting yourself in a fight or flight scenario. You know what I mean? Martial
yeah.
arts is the art of fighting. You know what I mean? But you can't always win the fight. Sometimes you need to get out of the situation and protect yourself. Sometimes you need to assess the situation and realize that you're not going to be able to win the situation and need to get yourself out of the situation safely. And so when you're adjusted with like an adrenaline situation, you get that fight or flight response. You know what I mean? Martial arts, karate, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, all that stuff is the art of fighting. Parkour is the art of flight, right? Fight or flight.
Hmm.
Sometimes you need to have that flight response, and you need to know how to navigate your body and do like gymnastics and do like that urban gymnastics and get out of the situation as quickly and effectively as possible. Um, I've always really been big into guns and stuff like that. I love guns and stuff. I don't have a gun unfortunately right now, but I really want to get one. My dad has guns and stuff like that. So if anything ever happened, I would just go to my parents' house. My parents have a bunch of supplies and guns and stuff.
You know,
I'm a big
it's
proponent.
yeah. Go ahead. You're a big proponent of.
I was gonna say I'm a big proponent of guns. Like I think civil like people think I'm crazy. Like I think whatever the military should have, the civilians should be able to have, except for like high level explosives. But like gun wise, I think if the military can have it, I think civilians should be able to have it.
You know, staying with parkour for a second, though, that's first of all, that's a fascinating and very eye-opening look at parkour because I'm sure I think I speak for Noah too, where most of us just wouldn't look at it like that. That's an excellent analysis of the fight or flight that can happen in a live situation. Because you know that, so there's so much you said in there, Jordan. By the way, I just posted my first parkour video. I reshared it. It's the if
Oh,
anybody
I
out there
watched that, dude. That was
go to
sick.
my Facebook. It's insane.
That
I
was
mean, that's
so
just insane.
sick, bro. I seen
I,
it.
I'm looking. I'm like, this has to be like this has to be just fake or doctored or
No,
deep fake video. My God, it's unbelievable. I mean that's just. I mean, so like what you're saying. I mean, there's a level of me, even the mind jits, mind over matter. I'm like, wow, like this guy, the risk involved. Right? I know he's highly trained, but the risk involved to land some of those, and he's jumping from a building to like a little piece of like almost like curb, and he's got to hit it, and it's just so it's
so
insane. But go ahead.
so I was gonna say, I started training parkour in like 2010, 2011, and the beginning of 2012. Those are the years I trained parkour. And back then, there was this show called MTV's Ultimate Parkour Challenge. And there was a bunch of people from the WFPF, and it's the World Free Running and Parkour Federation. And dude, Frank, when I'm into something, I'm all into it, dude. Like I
Yeah.
studied like all about like the roots and stuff like parkour comes from France. It comes from like the French military, from this guy named David Lebel. And David Lebel like taught it to like the French military and stuff, like on how to like urbanly navigate through like the environment as effectively as possible. And that's where parkour actually stemmed from, was like being taught to the French military. Like a lot of people don't know that. Like I always,
Yeah.
whenever I'm into something, I always study the roots of like where it came from and how it
Yeah.
started and stuff like that.
It's almost like ninjas in shorts and t-shirts. It's like ninjas,
Yeah.
but they're dressed in street clothes. Like,
So yeah, there was this show called the MTV's Ultimate Parkour Challenge, and it was like the best free runner and parkour athletes in the world at the time. And they went to this like gymnastics gym, and they did like a workshop for a couple days. And I actually went there and got to train with those guys and got to learn from those guys, like the best free runners and parkour guys in the world. And I was just asking them all sorts of questions at the time. And one of my favorite guys, Daniel Ilibaka. Daniel Ilibaka. He was like sick. He was on all sorts of like those fight. He was on like that Fight Science show like back in the day. He was in like a bunch of TV shows. He was like in a bunch of movies and stuff. But anyway, I asked Daniel Ilibaka, and I was like, "Hey man, like, yo, like how?" He was really good at these things called precision jumps, where like imagine like handle like like you're walking on a pathway and there's like two bars, like side rail pathways for your hands. You know what I mean? But they're round, so it'd be very hard to even stand on it. And then you can jump off of one and land on another one. You know what I mean? And you're jumping from one bar to another bar, and it's very easy to fall off or like split your legs and hit your balls. And he would do it crazy, crazy, crazy precision jumps, like stuff that I had never seen before. And I asked him, I was like, "Hey man, like how do you do these crazy precision jumps? Like how? Like I don't understand." And then he told me about the parable of the plank, but didn't call it the parable of the plank. And John Danaher made a video about the parable of the plank, and it blew up in jiu-jitsu years later. But the parable of the plank is essentially Daniel Ilibaka told me, what I do, man, is I practice on cracks. So cracks on a sidewalk. I'll stand on one crack, and then I'll jump as far as I can and land on another crack and stick the landing without moving. Because that's what you have to do on a precision jump. You have to jump and stick without moving, or else you're going to fall off the target. And he would say that he would just practice on different cracks. He would try and jump and stick the landing.
So he's
on
starting very small where there's no risk, right? So very small jump where there's no risk at all. He would perfect it where there was no risk.
Literally no risk, just on flat ground. Exactly, just trying to jump and stick the landing on a crack. And then he said once he could do that, he knows how far he could jump and stick the landing. And so he would do it and he would apply that. And he says as long as he can do that on flat ground, if he can do that 10 times on flat ground, then he should be able to do that even if it's 1,000 feet up in the air. You know what I mean? It doesn't, then it's, you know what you're capable of. You know, you can do it on flat ground with no risk. So what is the difference when you're 1,000 feet up in the air? It's the same exact thing. It's just your mind changing it and adding risk to the thing. It's the same exact situation. And it's like John Danaher made a video online about it, about he's seen like some daredevil come to his school and perform some stunt. And it's about how he like walked across on a plank on like a big gap in between two buildings. And then he put the plank down on the floor and was like, "Oh, can you guys walk across this plank?" And everybody could walk across the plank. And then he was saying it's the same exact thing, except it's really high up now. It's the same exact concept and parable. And when John Danaher said that, I was like, "Oh my God, I learned that when I was a little kid in parkour."
Yeah. It's fascinating how those parkour guys also, when they do elect to fall, right, when they do elect to jump and spin and then they hit the ground, it's fascinating how they kind of like Hollywood stunt people are able to break the fall. I think there's a lot of relevance there for people in the martial arts too, you know, how they're able to distribute the weight and land on a body part where they're able to walk away.
It's a martial arts roll.
Yeah,
it is a martial arts roll. It's like a judo roll or a martial arts roll. When they fall down onto the floor, they tuck their arm and they roll and they turn themselves into like a circular motion, and then they roll and they roll right up to their feet, right? So that the motion is never like slapped down to the floor. The motion never stops.
So all of the weight is never focused on one area, like all the weight on your shoulder, which would crush your shoulder or your neck. The weight is so evenly distributed throughout that it winds up being, they get up and walk away fine. I want to say this though, because you mentioned this, and this has relevance. I actually I had a dream last night that incorporated this, and you reminded me of something in my childhood. We were talking about the fight or flightness of our adrenaline response, where we perceive we're in a threatening situation, or maybe someone's going to attack us. But when I was younger in Baltimore, I was jumped a couple times. And I had this stupid thing in my head, which was you're not allowed to run from a fight. So when I thought of fighting, when I thought of fighting as a youngster, I always thought, well, when it's time to fight, if somebody makes trouble or you have to defend someone or you have to defend yourself, you have to fight. You cannot be a coward. The worst thing would be a coward. The notion of live to fight another day, or even de-escalation, like these were not in like 14, 15, 16-year-old Frank's mind. There was no like, hey, let's de-escalate. There was no, you have the option to run or live to fight another day. So even when there were multiple attackers, me, like a dumbass, was like, okay, how can I win? And I'm only 150 145, 150 pounds at that time. And I'm thinking, okay,
Yeah.
I'll fight them. And what you said earlier about parkour, about, you know, the French military and the option in a fight, that there sometimes, as the old saying goes, discretion is the better part of valor. Sometimes the best thing you can do is live to fight another day. We see that even in the UFC now, where there are things where one fighter is getting pummeled so much, it's so obvious that that fighter's not going to win. And sometimes the best thing, even though we're like, well, you know, courage to the max and fighting spirit and this and that, we're like, this person had Tony Ferguson in that fight against Gaethje. Like, at some point, discretion has to be the better part of valor, and smart people have to say, hey, it's just time to say it's not his day, and let's protect the fighter. And the same thing, a teenager like me in the trenches, a teenager like me in the trenches who's saying, hey, stay and fight. There is a time to run. There's a time to say, hey, get a restart, get a new day. It's not your day. There's too many of them. And so when your parkour thing made me, you know, now I'm aware. And I had a dream last night, and I was thinking in the dream, when I woke up, I was like, yeah, there's, you know, sometimes the best thing you can do is run. And that, just to show you how long it took me, that's so commonsensical, right? But I'm like, hey, bro, sometimes the best answer, you got multiple attackers, whatever, you run. Like, make sure your cardio is on point. You tap into your inner David Goggins, and you need to run. And there's no shame sometimes in running and escaping the situation or de-escalating it.
Let me touch base on that, because
Me too.
I disagree with this. But for the most part, I agree. So
yeah,
and like you were talking about in MMA regards and stuff like that, I feel like
I'm talking about multiple attacker scenarios, Jordan. I'm talking about multiple attacker scenarios, especially you and I. Yes. You're not likely to have one person want to make trouble with you. It would likely be a multiple attacker scenario.
Yes. And I still, to this day, I'm not the smartest guy. I don't claim to be the smartest guy, but I still have that mentality to today. If you the only time I'm gonna resort to my parkour is if you pull out a weapon, Frank. You pull out a knife, you pull out a gun, you pull out a big stick, you pull out a bat, I'm gone. Now it's not a normal fight. But
if you have multiple attackers trying to step you're wrong place,
there's
wrong
three
time?
Guys, Frank. There's 3 guys. There's 4 guys. There's 5 guys. There's no weapons inside. They throw their hands up with me. I'm going to throw my hands up with those 5 guys, and I'm going to take my ass whooping. I'm not running.
Jordan,
I'm not running.
I probably would do the same. I'm just mentioning running as an option. I probably still have it's kind of like one of those fighters where I said this last night about Joe Benavidez, who I trained with. You know, UFC was last night. Good card. I know you watched, Jordan. You said you were working out. And when I was doing the fight in my head, and I was you know, handicapping, and I was thinking, oh, how's this fight going to go? And I thought, well, for Joe Benavidez to beat the guy, you know, Figueiredo, who's now the flyweight champion, I'm like, for Joe to beat him, Joe would have to dance a lot. Joe would have to be, you know, kind of run from the fight, land some punches, get out of the way, and dance and play the points game. But the problem with that is that's not who Joe Benavidez is. Joe Benavidez is a scrapper. He's a brawler. Once you hit him, his heart's going to set in. And that's just like you and I. It's like, yes, running is an option. It's a conscious option. But the likelihood is, once I start seeing red and once things go, I'm probably going to be like Joe Benavidez, which is you're going to fall on your sword and say, well, this is who I am. I can't play that strategy game. Now, having said that, I am much more receptive to the idea. Because again, Jordan, you know, I love you, but you're still a young guy. Like, you know, to you, it's still important. And it was at your age, I was the same way. It's just important to that valor, that bravery, that heart. And it's just so important. It's so key to your identity. When you get older, sometimes you realize that's not an all-consuming part of the identity. It's still there. Yeah. But sometimes it's like, you know, I mean, if you could just get out of the situation, it's like there's 5-10 people who want to stomp your head. And I've had my head stopped. I got jumped so bad one time that I had the footprint, you know, the bottom of the footprint, the bruise on my head was the shape of whatever was on the bottom of their sole. And I had that for a couple of days. I had to go to work with that. I felt like a truck hit me. And, my buddy who was a cross country state champion who was with me, he ran, he never got caught. He never took a punch. I decided I was Jordan Worth. I was like, bring it.
Let me tell one story real quick, Frank. I'll tell it really, really quickly. this is actually how I got into MMA. This is actually like, well, it's really part of the story, but that's actually the story on how I really got into MMA. So I always knew about MMA and stuff like that because my dad was a jiu-jitsu blue belt. So I grew up watching MMA way more than I would ever watch football and stuff. I was watching like Chuck Liddell and like Royce Gracie and all the old guys. But one day I was walking home, man, and these kids were messing with me, dude. Me and my cousin Brandon and my best friend Blake. And it was like a group of like 9 or 10 kids, and they were all screaming at us like, hey white boys, come over here, like look over here. And we just weren't looking at them. And then before I knew it, they threw a bottle at us. It broke right by my feet. The glass like shattered and like hit my ankles and stuff. And the bottle could have hit my head. They were pretty much throwing it at me. And so I stopped and I looked at them, and they all were like screaming at me, trying to fight us for like pretty much exactly no reason. And then there was literally, I swear to God, Frank, like 9 or 10 of them, and it was me and two of my friends. And I was like, hey guys, like I'll fight every. I literally told him, I was like, I will fight everybody here. This is before I started training. I was like, I just turned 15. I was like, I will fight every single person here one on one. But just square up with me one on one. I'm not gonna fight all you guys at once. You have us outnumbered. I'll fight everybody here one on one. And then this kid got in my face and was like, "What's up? What's up? I'll fight you. What's up? What's up?" And then threw his hands up. I looked at him. As soon as I looked at him, I got hit in the back of my head. I turned around. I put my hands up. And then as soon as I looked at one kid, I got hit in the back of my head again. I turned around, and then I realized that they had me boxed in. There was 4 kids. I was in the middle, and there was 2 kids in front of me and 2 kids behind me. And every time I would get hit, I would turn around, and they'd hit me from behind again. I would turn around, they'd hit me from behind. And then I looked up, and I backed up. I backed up so that they were all in front of me. And then I looked up, and there was 4 kids, and they were all squared up with me, all walking down in a line. And it was just me. And I looked up, my friend Blake. Some kid was was shot on Blake's legs, was like trying to take Blake down. Blake was like 6'5", like a super tall guy. There was a kid on Blake's back, like bear hugging him, and Blake looked up, punched some kid, and then some kid ran and jumped on top of Blake and took Blake down. And then the kid started attacking me again, and I fought these kids for like just a little bit. And I started walking away, and as I was walking away, they tried to get me to run, Frank, and I was like, I'm not gonna run. I was walking on the curb, and they were all in the street, and they were all screaming at me like, hey, step off that curb, like step off that curb and see what happens, like you better get off out of here, you better start moving. And I was like, dude, I'm like, my house is this way, I'm not running from you guys, like you guys are stupid, I'm not going to run from you guys. And then they picked up rocks and they started throwing rocks at me, and like big baseball sized rocks, and one of the rocks hit me in my ribs, and I'm pretty sure it broke my ribs because it hurt for like 2 months after that. And that's like the worst of the damages I got. None of their punches really hurt me that much, but the rock they threw at me messed me up pretty bad. And then after that, I was also having a bunch of girl problems and stuff after that. Some girls were cheating on me and stuff. So I was like, and I had really bad grades in school. So I was like, man, like, I'm not going to college. These kids are beating me up. I'm getting bullied. Girls are cheating on me. Like, I need to figure something out. And that's pretty much the story of how I became an MMA fighter. I was like, I'll be an MMA fighter. It'll fix all my problems. And
you know, there's the
a lot.
Well, we have Frank frozen. Uh-oh. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully he can.
Frank, phone die?
Could be.
That's all that matters. Now he's gonna tell.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's Frank Forza left. Yeah.
He heard my story. It's all that matters. He got it. Oh, there he is.
Oh, yeah. I will bring this man back into the frame. We got your back.
I was gonna say, Noah, I know that you know this song. Jordan might not. Remember that old Kenny Rogers song? Know when to hold him, know when to fold him, know when to walk away, know when to run. And it reminds me, you guys ever seen the movie Heat? By the way, people that are watching, like, you know, I would say in my top 15, top 20 movies, Heat with Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. I think it's a Michael Mann, I think, made the movie. It's like a 2.5 hour, 2 hour and 45-minute movie. It's worth the watch. And that, you know, the character in there, De Niro, he falls in love, right? He finally falls in love, and he's home free, but he's got that guy Wayne Grow, right? Remember Wayne Grow, the guy that screwed him over really bad. Like he's home free. He's going to go to the island with the woman. He's got all the money he could need, and he's ahead of he's home free. But Wayne Grow, who kind of messed him over and who he can't stand, is he gets a call. Hey, we got Wayne Grow at a hotel, and he turns around, right, and he can't let that go. And I think, I mean, it's first of all, it's a great scene. It's a great, like, I understand that character. I understand that, and where you're so prideful, right? You're so wrapped up in an identity that even if it meant Jordan, I mean, guys like you and me, I'm speaking for myself too, but even if it meant you get your head stomped in. But this is the thing, Jordan. For those of us that have had our head kicked in and we've been jumped and we've been beaten up and we've made a life of getting our ankles torqued and our hands broken and our teeth chipped and this is broken and the shoulder is cracking and that doesn't feel right. For those of us who dance with danger like that and we beat it, a lot of times I think, like, Frank, do you understand? Like, there's people that are like vegetables, or their brain is never right again, or they're just never right. Like, there are people that get really bad beatings. There are fighters, sometimes it's just so bad and they're never the same after that, right? Their chin's never the same. Their brain's never the same. It's not the norm, but it does happen. And I'm just thinking, is it worth it for what? Just for an identity. And again, I've still got that in me. I've got that bite down in your mouthpiece, beat up these 5 guys if you have to. I didn't tell you guys this story, but last week, and I'm not proud of this, by the way, because just when I think that inner city Frank is gone, and just when I think I buried him and, oh, he's gone, here comes tree hugger Frank, pacifist Frank, poet Frank, here's philosopher poet Frank. And just when I think the artist is there, and then inner city Frank makes an appearance, and I'm like, oh my God, the guy's still there. I was shadow boxing last Sunday at the park here on a Sunday afternoon, peaceful as can be. People are having picnics. People are falling asleep, taking naps in the park. Kids are playing in the water fountains, whatever. They have like these spring fountains. And so I can see up ahead, like literally like 125, 50 yards into yonder. I can see this group of like 7 or 8, like 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And you can just tell, just by body language, you can tell, like, they think they're the toughest thing on 2 feet, right? Like, they're the crew, right? They're the tough crew. They're the smart crew. They're the cool crew. You could see that from 150 yards away, them walking. And you're thinking, they're going to come here. And of course, I'm just thinking, I'm just shadow boxing with some 3-pound weights. I'm getting the sun. I'm in La La Land. I'm listening to music. But of course, there's an instinct in me that's like, oh God, here comes the tough crew. So I just, they do their thing. Well, they get closer, like 25 yards away. And one of them, this big kid, he's probably like literally 6'3", 270, half muscle, half pudgy, right? Big kid. And he's doing all these gestures and mocking and looking at me and flexing and just being silly. His friends are laughing. He's entertaining his friends and he's pointing at me and he didn't say anything, but he's pointing, he's gesturing, and he's being like kind of like a comedian. And then I didn't know if he was like, is he punking me? Is he mocking me? I didn't know what to make of all of the gestures and mannerisms. And so he keeps looking over and mocking. Now, he wasn't trying to say, hey, I want to fight you. You think, he didn't say anything, but he was doing these gestures. His friends were laughing. And so I look at the kid and I said, I looked over at him and I just stopped and I looked up and I said, you don't want none. You don't want none, kid. And then I just went back to what I was doing. Now, I actually don't think that was the right way. Like, I was like thinking later, like, come on, you didn't have to say you don't want none. You didn't have to say that. But the inner city Baltimore part of me was like, look at these punks, like tough. They think they're the toughest thing on 2 feet. They think they're the baddest thing. They have bad attitudes. They have nothing better to do than to come over when they're 7 deep, right? 7 deep, power in numbers, and sit there and look at me and look at me like I'm a weirdo and mock me or whatever.
Told him you don't want none?
Huh?
You told him you don't want none?
I said you don't want none. And I didn't say it in a way that was like, let's fight, right? I wasn't saying that. I just was saying it in a way kind of like, you don't want none. I didn't say it in a way like, I didn't follow it up with anything. I just looked up at him and I just looked at him for a second, like with that little gleam in my eyes. And I'm like, yeah, you don't want none. And then I went back to what I was doing. But then I was thinking the rest of my workout, I was like, okay, I didn't really like seriously punk him. But they were hanging around the park later and I was like, you never know how, 19, 20, 21-year-old stupid people, you just never know how they take it. And I thought it's possible they could be like, now, by the way, guys, they were like 25 yards away. They might not have even heard what I said. Some people can't understand. I'm an East Coast guy. They were like, what did he even say? Right. They probably didn't even know it. But I actually analyzed that. Now, you guys We're friends. We're all martial artists. Martial arts is not always technique and fighting. It's taking a look at situations like this and analyzing it and saying, hey, how could I have handled that different? How could I have de-escalated that? How could I have maybe made a friend? So you wind up analyzing. That's a teachable moment for me as well. When on our show, I'm not going to sit here and act like I've handled every situation in life in the most perfect fashion. That's not the case. A lot of times what we learn the most from are things like this, where we're like, you know what? Let me edit that in my head. Let me review that in my head. Let me analyze that. There's a better reaction for you, Frank, than that. But what I'm saying, Noah and Jordan, yes, Inner City Frank is still there. That guy you're talking about with that pride is there. Jordan. But guess what? I just think it's so much easier to it would have been so much easier to just de-escalate that whole thing. And sometimes discretion is the better part of valor. Sometimes the right thing to do is to just be like, is to sidestep it, is to navigate it, is to make a friend, is to.
I would have escalated it to make a friend. I would have said, hey bro, you want to come over here and roll with me? Let's see what we can do. No punches. Let's just see what happens.
That did occur to me. That did occur. That did occur to me. We're like, hey, you're a lot bigger. Let's just roll, no, whatever. I'm not mad at you, but let's just roll. I didn't do that, but that did occur. Like, all right, like, so I understand what you're
little escalation by de-escalation.
Yeah, Noah, you're sitting there taking all this in. What are your thoughts on some of the stuff? You've been quiet for a little bit. We've silenced you. What have been your thoughts over the last 10, 15 minutes?
When I get quiet like this, it's me practicing being in your shoes and listening to you and shutting up the voice in my head. However, there's just one thing I wanted to point out. Earlier in the podcast, I mentioned that our legal system is based on English common law with torts. So I will tell you this: once I'm provoked and I'm in self-defense mode, and we get after the physical altercation, and then after I lean hard with the district attorney to press criminal charges against you, then I'm going to after you're done with that criminal prosecution, then I'm going to sue you civilly. And if you own a home, if you have a bank account, if you have a business, if your parents that you live with have a real estate property or a homeowner's insurance, I'm going to make sure that my lawyer will fight you to the death. So there are 3 fights in one there. I packed 3 punches in one. And so after I choke you out because you provoked me and attacked me, then I'm going to make sure that I have you prosecuted criminally, and then I'm going to go after you civilly, where I will extract the fullest pain from you, and that's having a judgment against you and then taking your assets from you. That's all I'm going to say. Is there's vast ramifications, there's vast consequences for messing with me.
So that's inner city Noah then. That's kind of inner city. That's kind of the version.
East Texas Noah. That's East Texas Noah. That's East Texas that's gone the route of realizing that he lives in a culture, in a civilized culture, where I'm going to civilly choke you out, and then I'm going to have you criminally prosecuted, and then I'm going to take your assets from you. Hope you enjoy your new ride, because it's going to be mine soon.
Wait, so kick your let's say arse, because the British say arse. They don't say the curse word. They say arse. Kick your arse, and then take your arsets.
Okay.
Go after your arsets.
Okay. Yeah, essentially that's what's going to happen. And there's 3 fights in one, 3 in 1. And I would do that, and I would make sure that, I'd make sure that your life's a living hell for years, because it only takes a couple $100 to file a lawsuit. It's pretty easy to do, and the templates are online. But plenty of attorneys out there will do this. If you don't have friends for attorneys, make some. You'll need them. I think it's healthy to understand that we train in martial arts, but that's like that is just one weapon That's one weapon. That's one skill set to have. We were contrasting rule of law versus vigilanteism, which is what you have in Brazil. That's one of the beauties of living in the United States of America. We don't have to resort to vigilanteism. You need to know your local laws, your state laws you live in, and how they operate. There's castle doctrine. There's various doctrines, and we as martial artists, and we talk a good talk. Where's our game at in terms of protecting ourselves legally as well? There's products out there, legal products out there like Law Shield, which when you pull the trigger, and this is one thing I've when training with firearms heavily over the last 15 years, there are vast consequences. Once you pull that trigger, your life will never ever be the same, and it's not good. When you have to defend yourself with that firearm, and you're responsible for that round that goes out of the chamber, your life is never going to be the same after that. And I promise you, it's not good. You're going to need an attorney to bail you out. You're going to be prosecuted for homicide or intent to do bodily harm just because you're protecting yourself. There's a lot of legal consequences that goes with training in these arts. You wanting to have guns, you wanting to have edged weapons. Understand the consequences of your actions, because it's easy to sit and talk about this stuff.
But you're right. There's a philosopher in India named Sadhguru, and they asked him, what's the worst evil in the world? And so I listened to the video for like 15 minutes, and I'm like, of course I'm conjecturing like what could the answer be, and his answer was ignorance. Ignorance is in his mind was the worst evil in the world. And to your point, Noah, what you're describing, which is a lot of us, including me on some levels, we have to understand all the dominoes that can fall, like just off of a disagreement that escalates into something. And once you go hands on, or you go weapons on, or you use, deadly force, or, there's just so many ways. There's so many ways the dominoes can fall.
Oh, bye, Frank.
What keeps happening?
Huh?
I said, I wonder what keeps happening.
Technology. I think that his battery's low or something. But anyways, that was my only point I wanted to make is, you got to really understand what's on the other side of the fight. And what's on the other side of that fight is a lot of misery, unfortunately. Your wounds will heal, your ego will heal. And if you have to use it, you have to use it. But then also know that there's levels after that as well that you're going to have to, there's still more in the arsenal once you've gone physical, and that's working with the district attorney, the prosecutor, and gathering evidence to criminally prosecute, and then gather all that for, tabulate your bills, your medical bills, your legal bills, and then going after them for damages. Damages like, I couldn't work, like for you, if someone were to fight you on the street and that hampers your martial arts and your MMA career, there are damages you can take for them, because you can say, look, I'm an up and coming martial artist, and this guy jumped me, and I had a broken arm, and I had a fight coming up, and it wasn't just that, but that also, you demonstrate damages, which is that's a cottage industry in accounting and law to show exactly, what that looked like financially. And then for someone to shake off a judgment against them, where then you put a lien against their assets until they pay you. And that's on their record. That's on their that's on their credit score. When you go to buy a house, they're going to say, well, you have this judgment against you. Did you pay it off? And
Yeah.
that person hasn't paid off that stuff. That follows them for jobs. That follows them for credit. You can't buy a car, a house. You know, there's vast consequences to these things. Yeah, when you want to use those tools, be sure you understand the cost of it. Just to shift gears, I know we're coming up on time. Jordan, training with you on Tuesday, right?
Yes. Good to
yeah. What I'm going to talk to Frank tomorrow about game planning for. I guess there's no real grappling competition for the rest of 2020. So we've got 5 months. We've got 5 months left in this year, calendar-wise. I don't know how long I've got to train with you, so I want to make the most of it. You know, with my nearly 50-year-old body, it's going to take a minute to recover from workouts. But I'm looking forward to you know, the focus of just getting with you and training on. You know, I'll talk to you more in depth then. You know, what you want to do and what you want to plan for on Tuesday. But whatever we can do to start getting ready for, you know, 5 months out, competition wise, you know, or more. I'm looking forward to training with you.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to start getting you to lose some weight. I think we're gonna start getting some weight off you pretty quickly, and once you start moving around and start training and stuff.
Cool. Yeah. That's it's gonna happen. I will. Yeah, I was going to talk about some of those things today on the podcast, but we went in a completely different direction than I anticipated, which is fine. As you know,
I said we usually do.
We usually do. Yeah, we meander. But anyways, so let's do a wrap here. Frank did warn us that he only had a certain amount of time. Anything else? Any other thoughts you want to put out there?
Just want to give a shout out to anybody who is listening out to this podcast. If we got any loyal listeners out there, thank you guys for listening. We're just gonna get better from here. We're gonna get better and better podcasts. We're trying to get better and better topics. I feel like we're getting a better chemistry and like learning how to talk a little bit better. Yeah, just keep listening, keep tuning in.
Yes, this is number 30, and Frank's popping up on the radar screen here. See if he has any thoughts.
Frank will do our closure. Frank has the best closers.
Frank, the closer.
Hey.
Frank, the closer. Can you hear us? I don't think Frank's back. I don't think his tech is working right now. I hear him making noises on his end. Oh, there he is. Hey, Frank.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you now.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Well, I was pretty much out of juice.
You warned us.
I think you guys know how to wrap it up, and it's been. I've enjoyed it. I hope you guys get out and have a great rest of the day. Are you guys wrapping up now, or?
Yeah, it's a good time to wrap up. Yeah, it's a good wrap. Number 30, and it's right at 3:00 Pacific. So that's a wrap for this week's show. Good talking to you. Yeah, he's out. Yeah, man. All right, I'll see you Tuesday. We're gonna get after it. That's a wrap. Everyman BJJ.
We'll get some good work in.
Yep. All right. Take care. Bye.
I'll see you later.